I want to talk a little bit about our obsession with virtual realities and how everyone seems to, well, virtually everyone seems to be obsessed with either their phone or Facebook or YouTube. And I don't actually think this is an addiction the way other people do, but I do think it's a huge change. If the alien anthropologists are watching us, which they probably are, they have probably taken careful note that in the last 20 or so years, there have been quite a shift from TV, movies, well, the books preceding both of those, and then to these little handheld devices. And it really does look like an addiction because you'll see these memes coming up on Facebook, and they'll say things like, well, you could live in this mansion for a year, but you have to give up the internet. And I don't think those would be out there unless there was something behind it. Now, if you look, of course, books have been around for a long time, movies, and just recently phones, and there has been one of the biggest shifts is that people used to watch TV all the time. Now people watch TV. You can see a whole family watch TV, but every person has their own electronic device, and so they're really in two simultaneous virtual realities at the same time. I predict that in the next generation, this is even going to get, quote, worse, because I think we'll have three levels. We'll have TVs, we'll have our personal electronic devices, and somehow there's going to be one new level to it. I'm just not clever enough to predict what it is. And so the question is this all an addiction? Well, I don't think so. I think it's in the nature of consciousness itself to become these virtual realities, and I think that's the way it's always been. I mean, if we threw a fish in water and the fish started swimming, we wouldn't say that the fish is addicted to water. And so what we're doing is we're pouring consciousness into really its home. And its home is all these various virtual realities. To kind of go into this, I want to bring up Bruce Lee since his movie's coming up in the next couple of weeks, a movie about his life. And one of his famous quotes, of course, is "Be like water." Now, he was talking about martial arts and not being restricted to one particular form. But the quote, "Be like water," when you pour water in a cup, the water becomes the cup. When you pour water in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Water can crash, water can flow, be like water. And of course, that was a really good metaphor for fighting in martial arts. But I think it was an excellent metaphor for consciousness. Consciousness becomes anything that it gets poured into. Now, I'm a very strange person because I get freaked out at things that most people think are normal. And two things that should freak people out all the time is reading books and going to the movies. You read a book and you become consciousness. It's like consciousness gets poured into the book. You watch a movie, it's like consciousness gets poured onto the screen. And that's the only thing that's happening. It's just technology has made devices where it's easier to pour consciousness into these devices than in the past years. Now, is this a bad thing? Well, it's not a bad thing because it's been going on as long as we've been going on, because you've got the best virtual reality machine right on top of your shoulders. The brain is nothing more than a virtual reality machine. Think about it. The photons of light that are in reality get turned into the screen that we believe is out there. The ripples in the air become the soundtrack. The pressure on the sensory neurons makes it feel like the brain is in touch with the world, but all it's getting is neural messages about the nature of reality, turning these neural messages into the virtual reality that we think is the reality out there. And so we've always, and maybe we will always, be stuck in a virtual reality. So that's not the problem. It's not an addiction. It's the nature of consciousness that's behind all this. The real question, in my opinion, is what is the nature of the virtual reality that you want to experience? It's a big difference between, say, Call of Duty and Seinfeld. And so that's the choice that I think you have to make.